It's morphin' time!
Power Rangers, a show about angsty teens fighting off the forces of an ancient evil with instructions from a floating head, and they have a robot for a butler. On paper, it seems really obscure and honestly destined to fail, but to many surprise, was a huge success when it first released in the States with its very first series, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, on August 28, 1993. The series itself was adapted from its Japanese counterpart, Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger, released in 1992 under the family of Super Sentai, which was actually already a massive hit in its very own country of origin. Produced by Toei and Bandai, the Super Sentai series used heavy special effects and flashy colors to entice its viewers, and this specific gem fit comfortably in the tokusatsu genre of media traditionally aimed towards families. Its Western adaptation would of course follow suit. Speaking of which, Power Rangers was actually made by splicing together old scenes from the Super Sentai series and new ones filmed exclusively for an English-speaking audience. The show itself, Power Rangers, was created by Haim Saban and Shuki Levy through their own television and music company, Saban Entertainment, previously known as Saban Productions. Interestingly enough, between the times of the company's transitional period from Saban Productions to Saban Entertainment, from 1980 to 1988, Saban would actually find himself on a trip to Japan, where he came upon a show titled Bioman. Shoreshi Bioman, the 8th installment of the Super Sentai series, actually gave Saban the idea to produce a Western adaptation of the series, so he and his company quickly produced a pitch episode for a pilot of an adaptation of Bioman. Unfortunately, this would be turned down over and over again, but Saban didn't let that deter him. He saw the potential of bringing over the Super Sentai series to the West, and in the coming years will pitch a brand new show, one still based on the Super Sentai series, the pop culture phenomenon we know today as Power Rangers. The first episode would actually air on Fox Kids, and on day one, it not only became a grand success, but it became ingrained into pop culture. Since then, several series under the Power Rangers moniker would release one after the other, each to varying success, but the brand stayed strong. A few movies have been produced, several comics have been written, tons of merchandise, be it toys, shirts, lunchboxes, etc. have been manufactured, and games were even made under the Power Rangers brand. In truth, Power Rangers is one of those brands that will likely never die, and its success should be attributed to its devoted fans. Whether they are adults now and saw the series when it first debuted, or a new generation that loves where the series is heading, Power Rangers touched the hearts of many fans, and the beloved series will probably continue to connect with thousands more. That said, the family-oriented series isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Power Rangers, as lighthearted in tone as it may be, has faced quite a bit of controversy. More than that, as the years went on, some of the cast and crew associated with Power Rangers had also encountered a series of bizarre, creepy, and downright cruel experiences that seem all too frequent to be considered a coincidence. Stories of death, unjust treatment, and an unfortunate amount of bad luck torment the Power Rangers name. So much so that fans of the series believe these strange occurrences to be more than mere coincidences. In fact, they attribute these strange occurrences to be the result of a curse. A curse appropriately known as the Power Rangers Curse. Let's be frank, the Power Rangers Curse is nothing more than a cute throwaway name the fans of the show created to explain the terrible things that happened to the show, cast and crew. That said, while the curse may not be real, it's a suitable and appropriately creepy way to describe the dark stories, the controversies, and strange coincidences that plague the Power Rangers name. First signs of the alleged curse would first appear in 1993, the same year of Power Rangers' debut. Like mentioned before, upon initial release, Power Rangers was an immediate hit. It wouldn't be a stretch to say that pretty much any kid who saw Power Rangers in the 90s was enamored with it. As soon as it aired, it took the nation by storm. A lot of people tuned into Fox Kids to watch the very first episode of Power Rangers. Before anyone knew it, Power Rangers merchandise would adorn the walls of any place that would sell them, and they sold like hotcakes. In fact, Power Rangers action figures became the hot toy of that year's holiday season. However, if you pay attention to history, You would know that whenever something new is introduced and becomes a massive hit, there are always naysayers wanting to tear down the huge success of others. It happened with the introduction of rock and other new forms of music, as well as comics and even movies. Power Rangers would of course be no different. After some time of bathing in its success, Power Rangers would be attacked by parents and supposed professionals for being too violent to be geared towards children. While many saw no issue with the show, opponents and quote-unquote child advocates claimed that the message the show was sending wasn't one that should be taught to kids. The show's apparent violent nature was apparently reason enough to pull it off several broadcasting networks outside of the United States. The Canadian broadcast rights to Power Rangers was owned by the YTT cable channel and would be pulled off the air before the end of its very first season after several complaints flooded the network's office. It would actually remain banned until 2011. Similarly, Power Rangers would find itself banned in other countries too, like New Zealand for example. Critics often pointed to the fact that Power Rangers used guns and other deadly weapons to dispose of their foes, only for it to be justified because it was for the good of the planet. It's a controversial message, sure, but I and a lot of others believe that opponents of the show were looking too deep into a show meant for kids and families alike. That said, the controversy doesn't end there. Some claim that the very first series, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, featured racist undertones and promoted racial stereotypes. When several of the more mature viewing audience noticed that Austin St. John, of partial Native American descent, Walter Emmanuel Jones, of African American descent, and Thuy Trang, of Asian descent, were cast as the Red, Black, and Yellow Rangers respectively, they raised a brow and surmised that the show cast them specifically to promote some bizarre racial agenda. This is actually still a running joke within the Power Rangers community. Although many assume that these three were specifically cast because of their ethnicity, the showrunners and producers claim it was nothing more but a mere coincidence. As if that wasn't enough, another bit of controversy actually arose from allegations of homophobia. David Yost, who actually played my favorite Ranger in the series, Billy, had to undergo years of bigoted remarks from the crew because of his sexuality. Disturbingly, a lot of the production staff would constantly belittle him and mock his sexual orientation. They even prompted him to go into conversion therapy to change his sexuality. According to an interview with fanblog No Pink Spandex, Yost claimed that on set he would be verbally abused by many of those on the crew, and he even walked off set because he was called that word one too many times. As it turns out, many of the producers would also ask his fellow cast and crew members what they thought about his sexuality, which reportedly made him feel very uncomfortable, understandably so.
So if I cry, I apologize in advance. I walked off set one day during the middle of lunch, during halfway through the day. I just had made a decision. I'd been thinking about it for a good week. And the reason that I walked off is because I was called one too many times. So I had just heard that several times while working on the show. And I myself was struggling with who I was or what I was, and to be made fun of on some level, or to be stereotyped or put into a category and sort of saying you're not, basically I just felt like I was continually being told I'm not worthy of where I am because I'm quote-unquote a gay person and I'm not supposed to be an actor and you can't be a superhero. That's sort of the vibe that I was getting.
Thankfully, Yost finally accepted his sexuality and is doing a lot better now, although it came at the cost of a nervous breakdown and subsequent hospitalization. The Power Rangers curse, of course, wouldn't stop at just causing the show trouble with controversy after controversy. In fact, many at first didn't even attribute the controversies the show endured with any sort of curse. That would of course change when many associated with the show would strangely end up passing away for a variety of reasons, despite most of the time being completely healthy prior to their death. Fans who believe in the curse actually worry for new cast members of the series because of the unusual amount of deaths of its cast members. Honestly, a few deaths here and there would be nothing to coo about, and truly wouldn't cause anyone to bat an eye or believe in something as unlikely as a curse. But the amount of cast members, even those with little association to the series as a whole, who died, well, the numbers shocked even me. The first to fall victim to the Power Rangers curse was the original group's mentor, Zordon himself. Robert L. Manahan, who worked on other popular shows like Martin, Sweet Valley High, and Beakman's World, also provided his powerful voice to the mysterious Zordon, the giant floating head that actually helped train the Rangers. In fact, he actually worked on the show since its inception until 1998. Unfortunately, not even the great and powerful Zordon could escape the alleged curse. Despite allegedly being physically healthy for most of his adult life, he would soon pass in June, during the start of the millennium. At age 43, he died from a heart aneurysm, but not without leaving a legacy behind. For the first 4 series of Power Rangers, he appeared as Zordon in the original series, Mighty Morphin, Zeo, Turbo, and in Space. Through those years, Manahan's performance left many who fell in love with his character saddened at the news of his death. After his unfortunate passing, he would forever be commemorated for his legacy and work on Power Rangers in an episode of Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, The Fifth Crystal, an episode that was actually dedicated to his memory. His passing was tragic to say the least. Any untimely death usually is, but his wouldn't be the last to be claimed by the haunting curse. Tommy Oliver, a Power Ranger of many colors, portrayed by Jason David Frank, would live on, becoming a fan favorite after decades of the series airing. Unfortunately, the same could not be said for his brother. When the show was casting for a new role, that of Tommy Oliver's brother, they opted to hire Eric Frank, the actual brother of the fan favorite actor, Jason David Frank. Eric Frank, despite not having much acting work, showed some promise with his role in the show. Prior to this, his only other credited role was in a TV special of Brittany and Melissa's Total Male Makeover. That said, his career and subsequent portrayal of David Trueheart would end abruptly. In the show, the character of David Trueheart was actually expected to become a stronger character as the series went on, forming a new dynamic with the team as he was expected to join the group as an actual Power Ranger. Sadly, that narrative arc would never come to fruition, with Frank's passing at the relatively young age of 29. He passed in April 2001, but the cause of his sudden passing was actually never identified. Suspiciously, no one actually knows what caused his death. This, of course, would only prove further credence to the existence of the rumored Power Rangers curse, or at the very least, it would to believers of said curse. Anyhow, Eric's death left his brother dejected for some time, but he eventually managed to move on. Although, as anyone would know, the loss of a family member is really something you never truly move past. Later that same year, on September 3rd, 2001, the so-called Power Rangers curse would claim yet another victim. Perhaps the most well-known and one of the most tragic deaths in the Power Rangers fandom was that of Thuy Trang, the original Yellow Ranger, Trini Tree Quan. Before her breakout role in Power Rangers, Trang and her family fled to Hong Kong to escape the ongoing Vietnam War. Her life was troubled from birth, as it would seem. When fleeing on a boat, Trang became ill, and the other refugees urged her mother to throw her overboard in fear of passing her sickness to the others and make more room for others fleeing their country. Her mother fought for her to stay and tried her best to keep her alive, and through sheer effort, she kept her daughter safe. After eventually being allowed asylum in the United States, Trang and her family would find suitable living arrangements across seas. It was here in the United States that the actress discovered her love for acting, and though she graduated college with a degree in civil engineering, she continued her pursuit to become an actor, and eventually found an audition for a new show, an American adaptation of a Japanese live-action children's show, Power Rangers. Because of her acting prowess and skilled martial arts training, she landed the role as Trini, the original Yellow Power Ranger. She stayed on the show for 2 seasons, and truly she made the character her own. Many fans loved her, many still do. Unfortunately, her career as an actress wouldn't last long. In 2001, one sunny California afternoon, Trang and her friends were making passage through the California mountains when the driver of the car suddenly lost control of the vehicle and drove off a cliff. By the age of 27, Trang would unwittingly become a victim of a horrible car accident, one that would not only kill her, but a few of her friends as well, and left the driver a quadriplegic. Trang's life was cut short, and many blame the Power Rangers curse. If you aren't familiar with the name Skylar De Leon, no one would blame you. The once-child actor who starred in a few commercials and once in a Power Rangers episode would grow up to become a felon and a psychopath. His role in the episode was incredibly small and so insignificant that he wasn't even credited. Though his acting career continued into his adulthood, he never really achieved success of any kind. His lack of success and poor income would eventually drive him to a life of crime. He committed a few robberies here and there, but by far his worst crime was murder. In 2004, he would stow away on the boat of a couple, Thomas and Jackie Hawks. After subduing both of them, he would tie them to an anchor which he would subsequently throw off the yacht, drowning both of them in the process. He would only be caught after police found him driving around in the couple's car. When police caught up to him, he was arrested and sentenced to death on April 10th, 2009. Cut to 2005, the curse would find yet another victim, Jack Banning. The television, film, and theater actor was actually best known for his role in Power Rangers in Space and Power Rangers Lost Galaxy as Professor Phenomenus. Before his iconic role, the Brooklyn-born actor managed to join a Broadway play in his early years. However, after marrying and having 3 children, he decided to put his career on hold until he decided to return to acting in his late 50s. But before joining Power Rangers, he had a few film appearances here and there, starring in movies like Playing for Keeps, Bitter Vengeance, Top Dog, Bloodhounds, and Reasons of the Heart. After eventually joining the cast of Power Rangers, he would go on to help mentor and teach young aspiring actors. And not too long after he left the show, he would act in a stage performance of Mice and Men. Though after his final and considerably best performance in Of Mice and Men, the senior actor would be diagnosed with pneumonia and pass away due to related complications in July 2005. A year later, the Power Rangers curse would strike yet again, this time claiming the lives of 3, all in the same year. The first would be respected voice actor Bob Papenbrook. Nicknamed Pappy amongst his fellow voice actors, he was renowned for his work in anime, video games, and of course Power Rangers. Some of his more well-known roles include Captain Blue from Beautiful Joe, Terrence E. Beck from Shin Megami Tensei, Red Greymon from the Digimon movie, and the voice of several characters in Power Rangers, like Deviat, Ratster, Spiky, Amphibitor, etc. His signature gruff-toned voice lent itself well to many tough guy characters in the voice acting industry, as well as several bad guys too. In fact, he was so good at voicing the villain that the casting crew for Power Rangers would consistently hire him back to voice new roles, as previously illustrated. But despite all the joy he brought into the world through his amazing voice acting, his life would end in misery. The 50-year-old would soon succumb to a chronic lung condition he had, and would be pronounced dead on the 17th of March, 2006. He would be survived by his widow Debbie Rothstein and his son, Bryce Papenbrook. Because of his father's endeavors in the voice acting industry, his son would be inspired to follow in his footsteps, and to this day is an incredible voice actor that can be found in video games and anime alike, much like his late father. 2 months later, in May 2006, the actress of the fan-favorite villain, Rita Repulsa, would pass away. Is she another victim of the Power Rangers curse? Well, that's up for you to decide. Machiko Soga, the actress for Rita, was actually raised to become a singer, but would actually grow up to pursue a career in acting. In her early career, she worked in mostly radio and voiceover roles, until she eventually landed a starring role as the central antagonist in Kyoryu Sentai's Zyuranger. Her footage would then be reused in the Super Sentai's American counterpart, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, where she would become Rita Repulsa. Her portrayal of Rita actually had a few fans grow a crush on the actress, and the character would remain in popularity in the fandom to this day. Tragically, a year prior to her death in 2005, she revealed that she had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer for at least 2 years. Despite trying her best to overcome the disease for the better part of 3 years, she would pass away in her own home on May 7th, 2006, at the age of 68. Just a few short months later, another actor would also perish because of their cancer diagnosis. Edward Albert, who was actually known for his work outside of the Power Rangers series, was renowned for his work in popular series like Star Trek, Beauty and the Beast, The Yellow Rose, among others. But to Power Rangers fans, he will always be known as Mr. Collins, the father to Time Force's Red Ranger. Despite his pedigree and other more, I suppose, mature shows would be most appropriate, it was great to see the dramatic actor partake in the goofy antics of the Power Rangers, while still delivering an amazing performance as the grumpy, stern father of the show. Though I don't think I need to say it, it could be argued that his performance was one of the many factors that contributed to the success of Power Rangers Time Force. In fact, Time Force remains as one of the fan-favorite seasons of the show. In a cruel twist of fate, Albert would be diagnosed with cancer only a month after his father died in 2005, and come 1 year later, on September 22nd, 2006, at 55 years old, Albert too would pass away due to complications with his lung cancer. For a while, it seemed like the gossip Power Rangers curse had subsided, only for it to return and claim yet another victim 2 years later, on December 30th, 2008. During the first season of Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, actor Richard Janelle would portray Ernie, an owner of a youth center in Angel Grove. Though debatably not as popular as the other side characters, Ernie was still quite the lovable one. He was considered and portrayed really as a gentle giant, and most scenes that featured the character were of him helping the youth/customers of the neighborhood. While Janelle remained on the show for some time, he would eventually leave to better help himself. Janelle was not a terribly healthy guy and suffered from obesity, so after leaving the show, Janelle would put most of his efforts to a healthier lifestyle and actually lost 40 pounds. However, his incredible weight loss wouldn't stop his heart from giving out in 2008. At the age of 47, Janelle would pass away after a fatal heart attack. On July 10th, 2010, the curse would strike yet again, this time attacking the wonderful Peter Rudder. Rudder had the pleasure of being not only the Ranger's mentor, but a Power Ranger herself in Power Rangers Mystic Force. Fun fact, she was actually the oldest actor to portray a Power Ranger in the series to date. She played Udana, the white Mystic Force Ranger, and was, and still is, beloved by fans of the series. She, like many others, have had work outside of Power Rangers as well, and she had appearances in Xena, This Is Not a Love Story, Always Laughing, and a few other productions. That said, it wouldn't be a stretch to say that many know her as Udana, the caring, tough love-endorsing mentor of the Rangers. However, seemingly out of nowhere, it was announced that Rudder had passed away due to a brain tumor. Her unexpected death still frankly feels unfair. She lived a healthy lifestyle, and had the spirit and energy of someone in their 20s, as some describe. Her passing would also mark the second time the life of a Power Ranger star would tragically end. Strangely, several deaths revolving around the Power Rangers curse have involved an unknown cause. Actor Maurice Mendoza's death would be no different. Despite being on the show for only a short time, it seems like the curse wouldn't discriminate. The actor, cast in the second season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, played a character who would have served as Trini's love interest, Richie. He only appeared on 12 of the series episodes, but the idea of Trini and Richie eventually being an item would soon be dropped as Mendoza opted to change careers mid-airing of the season. After leaving the show, it would become his final appearance on TV, and really his only appearance accredited to him. Though strangely at 39 years old, relatively young still, Mendoza mysteriously died in Mesa, Arizona, and his cause of death has yet to be made public, at least officially. For now, his cause of death remains unknown. Just 2 months later, and perhaps with the least association with the show, Elisa Ann Smego would also fall victim to the Power Rangers curse. Smego only made a single appearance on the show, an episode of Season 2 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Forever Friends. There, she played Shauna, an acquaintance to the Rangers. Her role on the show was small, and after her first and final appearance on the show, she would go on to play several small roles in other TV shows, and even appeared in Boy Meets World, which was apparently a very popular show during the 90s. Her life for a while seemed to be filled with nothing but highs. At least it was to the public. She hosted her own cooking show, became a reporter, and even taught yoga. Truly, she was living the dream, but despite her outward appearance, she was never really happy. She struggled with mental illness for most of her life, and eventually took that very same life on October 5th, 2013. Probably one of the creepier, or I suppose darker stories to be released in association with the Power Rangers was that of a murder committed by Ricardo Medina Jr., otherwise known as the Red Wild Ranger. Medina played Cole Evans during Power Rangers Wild Force, and would actually return to the series a couple years later in 2011 in Power Rangers Samurai. Given that the main weapon for most Power Rangers are swords, it's almost ironic what would transpire on January 21st, 2015. After an argument became physical regarding his girlfriend with his roommate Josh Sutter, Medina would grab his replica Conan the Barbarian sword and proceeded to stab Sutter through his chest. The single lunge was a fatal hit. For 2 years, he pleaded self-defense, but would eventually plead guilty to the murder in early 2017, landing him 6 years in prison for manslaughter.
Medina appeared in the popular children's TV series Power Rangers, and he pleaded guilty to stabbing Josh Sutter to death with a sword in 2015 after an argument. Well, today the victim's family talked about their pain.
We also hope that everyone that looks at Ricardo from now on will never see him as a celebrity, but as nothing more than a cold-blooded killer.
Now, that seemed to be the last of the curse's victims, and for some time it seemed like the curse had ended. For 4 years, not a single soul associated with Power Rangers had passed. In fact, all seemed well, until May 13 of this year, 2019. Pua Magasiva played the beloved Shane Clark, the Red Wind Ranger in Power Rangers Ninja Storm. Shane Clark was, among with the rest of his Ninja Storm cast, a fan favorite as well. His headstrong personality, natural leadership, and strong sense of morality made the character one of the most enjoyable to watch on the show. And though the Samoan-born actor would go on to be a part of several other productions in New Zealand, Magasiva is best remembered for his role as the Red Ranger, and reportedly he loved his role too. After the ending of Ninja Storm, he would actually go on to have a fairly successful career in acting, and he featured in other notable roles as well. He starred in the New Zealand soap opera Shortland Street, Outrageous Fortune, and others as well. Unfortunately, he too would be another Power Ranger to pass away long before his time. Earlier this year, on a Saturday morning, police were called to his residence and found Magasiva dead. His cause of death still unknown. He was survived by his wife and their 2 children. Before his death, he was starring in Shortland Street, one of New Zealand's most popular shows, and the production company issued a statement regarding his death. Quote, "We are all absolutely devastated at the tragic news regarding Pua Magasiva. Pua was a much-loved member of the South Pacific Pictures family for many years, and our hearts and thoughts go out to Pua's family at this time." His death would actually trend on Twitter earlier this year, and thousands shared their sympathies to Pua's family, in perhaps one of the kindest showings of mutual understanding and sadness. After news of his death spread, his Power Rangers co-star and friend, Jason Chan, would also comment on his death, saying, "Incredibly sad to hear that one of our Ranger family is gone. It will never be the same again. Pua, you will be so dearly missed. You were the center of energy, on set and off, always laughing, giggling, and involved in practical jokes." I love Power Rangers, and my love for the series was actually revitalized earlier this year, though I'm certain I'm not the only adult out there that still enjoys the series. Power Rangers is something near and dear in many hearts, but like most things in life, it too carries a dark side. One that's all too easy to forget. Like I mentioned before, I'm fairly certain that the Power Rangers curse has nothing to do with all these bizarre and frankly kind of creepy coincidences. Truth be told, with a series as large and expansive as Power Rangers, it was expected to see some kind of tragedy follow it through the years. Even still, it's kind of hard to comprehend that all these terrible events plague such a wonderful show. It's sad to see all these people pass away, and so many others have to endure the loss of a loved one. And to those that did, my heart goes out to you. Though, one last thing before I go, I would like to say that I didn't make this documentary, if you'd want to call it that, to claim that some curse was behind all this tragedy, or to make fun of said tragedy through some spooky tale. But I made it rather to shed light on some of these potentially forgotten deaths. And with that, I'm off. Have a happy Halloween, and be safe out there. The Power Rangers curse may not be real, but who's to say another curse isn't lying around the corner, waiting to claim you as its very next victim?